Welcome to this video on the Asset Inventory module. First, to get to the Asset Inventory module, after logging in, hover over the second icon below the NextGen logo. A panel with several options will appear. The Asset Inventory module is the first one here. Our first objective, search and find assets, can be done here on the left side of the page. The first two ways to find an asset can be done using the asset hierarchy structure. This tree can be sorted by location or class. When an asset is created in our software, it will be tagged with both a location and a class. Let's start with location. You can click on any high-level label to see all of the assets in that location, which populates on the right. If you continue expanding these higher level locations, you can drill down to a more specific location. A good example is building. If I were to click on the high-level building, I would get a list of all of the assets in the entire building. Currently, I have a list of 626 assets in this building. Now, if I want to see more assets here, I can just scroll up and down and continue on to the other pages by clicking one of these numbers or using these arrows here. But maybe I don't want to see all of these assets and only want to look at the 5th floor. Expand the building using the arrows and click on the correct floor. Notice the number of assets has gone down since I'm only looking at the assets on the 5th floor. Finally, let's say I wanted to know what assets were in room 511. When I expand the 5th floor, I can see all of the rooms located on that floor. Click on room 511 to show only the assets in that room. I can either click on the arrow to see the assets on the left, or when I clicked on 511, all of those assets are populated over to the right. Notice room 506 doesn't have an arrow, which means no assets are currently in that location. And when I click on that room, no assets are shown to the right. The class hierarchy can be used the same way, except now the assets are organized by their class instead of location. Instead of seeing all of the assets in room 511, now I could look at all of the assets tagged as pumps. When I expand the pump class, there are subclasses which are more specific to the asset. Again, when I click on a class, a list of assets populates to the right. Another way to search for assets is in the upper left corner. By clicking this dropdown, you can see the full list of ways to search for assets, the most common being number or name. After selecting the search method, in this case number, type in the box below. When I hit enter or click the magnifying glass, a list of assets is populated to the right. A quick note on the dials above. When I click show all, the list of assets repopulates and will now show assets that are inactive. Notice the button here. The default is to show only the active assets. And when I click on exact match, the only assets that populate will be the ones that exactly match my search. Another way to search for assets is by typing in the QR code if your company has this feature set up. You can also scan the QR code on the iPad or mobile app. More on that in a different lesson. Let's move on to our next lesson objective, viewing asset information and attributes. When the assets are populated on the right in list view, we can see the thumbnail photo, the asset number, name, location, class, number of corrective or preventative work orders this asset is on, and finally the exact address here. When you click on one of the assets, it brings us to the asset level. Again, we can see the photo, which can be enlarged by clicking on the eye. At the top is the asset number and name. We can also see the QR code, a brief description, the location, class, and address. There's more information here, all pretty straightforward, so we won't go into any further detail now. At the bottom of this page, we see the asset attributes for this particular asset. These attributes are unique to all of the assets in this class, and this information can be edited here. Moving on to viewing work order histories. Below the asset attributes, you can see what work orders have been tied to this asset. The default filter is MTD, or month to date, but that can be changed to year to date. Notice how work orders have now populated, along with life to date. On the right-hand side, you can view meter readings either in a list view or graphically by hitting this icon. Again, you can filter to see data from different time periods. You can edit information already entered using the drop-down arrow, or add in a new meter reading by clicking Add. To view attachments, you can find all of the attachments that have been tagged to the current asset. Usually that might include manuals or pictures. And finally, our last objective, View and Add Comments, refers to this section here. When you type in a comment, it will be timestamped and kept tagged to this asset. That sums up our lesson on the Asset Inventory module. Continue on for a series of questions and exercises that relate to the material covered in this video. Good luck!